Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission, as always, is to take some pretty complex sources and pull out the most, well, counterintuitive insights for you.
And today, we're tackling a real mind bender.
Definitely. Get this. Can a person who is clinically blind, like reporting they see absolutely nothing, still react accurately to visual stuff?
It sounds impossible, right?
Yeah.
But it's a real phenomenon. We're talking about blindsight.
Blindsight, okay.
Yeah, it's basically this capacity for some residual visual function. Even after the primary visual cortex, it's V1, the main hub is damaged.
So the part of the brain usually responsible for conscious sight is out of action.
Exactly. It causes cortical blindness.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow, non-conscious visual processing,
Mm-hmm.
it keeps going.
So the brain has like a main highway for vision, V1, and if that's closed, there are side roads, detours.
That's a great way to put it. The visual data is still getting processed. It's just not reaching the part that gives us that subjective feeling of seeing.
Okay.
And researchers usually break it down into two main types. There's type 1 blindsight.
Type 1.
This is the really pure form. The patient says, I see nothing. I'm just guessing. But when they guess where a light flashed, for example, their accuracy is way above chance.
Wow. So they know where it is, but they don't know they know.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's this disconnect between performance and awareness. Then there's type 2.
Okay, what's different there?
In type 2, the person might report, well, something. Not clear vision, but maybe a feeling, a vague sense that something changed or moved over there in the blind spot.
But still no actual visual detail, like color or shape?
Generally, no.
Yeah.
They lack what we call visual qualia, the specific content of perception. They just sense. A disturbance, maybe.
Yeah.
It's a subtle but important difference.
That distinction, pure guess versus some vague feeling, seems key. How does this actually, play out? The most dramatic stuff seems to involve people acting on vision they don't have.
Oh, absolutely. The case of patient TN is probably the most striking example. This was work published around 2008.
We read about this. He had damage to V1 on both sides, bilateral loss.
That's right. Functionally, completely blind. Yet he could walk down a cluttered hallway.
And not just shuffle along, he navigated it, avoided obstacles.
Perfectly. They put chairs, boxes, trash cans in his path. He maneuvered around them flawlessly, all while reporting he saw nothing.
That's incredible. That's not just guessing.
Yeah.
That's complex motor control guided by vision he isn't aware of.
It truly is. It points directly to these alternative brain routes and supports the idea of two main visual streams.
The what and where pathways, or perception versus action.
Exactly. The vision for perception stream, the ventral stream, gives us our conscious experience of what things are. That relies heavily on V1.
And that was damaged in TN.
Right. But the vision for action stream, the dorsal stream, guides our movements, the where and how. That pathway seems partially independent of V1.
Which explains how TN could walk and avoid things. That's often called action blindsight, isn't it?
Yes, that ability to accurately guide motor responses, reaching, pointing, eye movements, or walking based on stimuli in the blind field.
But here's what gets me. If that action stream is working so well, why zero awareness? Shouldn't guiding your body require some perception?
You'd think so, but that's the paradox. The dorsal stream seems to operate more like a real-time guidance system. It needs the visual information right now.
What happens if there's a delay?
That's crucial. Studies show that if you flash a target and then, after a short delay, ask the patient to point where it was, performance drops dramatically.
So the V1 independent pathway can't hold on to the information, it needs it live.
It seems so. It's great for immediate action, but not for tasks requiring memory of the stimulus location or features, even for a second or two. That seemed to need V1.
Okay, let's go deeper then. Under the hood. If V1 is out, what are these detours? You mentioned alternative pathways. What's the actual circuitry?
Well, the standard route is retina to the LGN, that's the lateral geniculate nucleus in the thalamus, and then on to V1.
The main highway.
Right. When V1's damaged, the brain seems to rely more heavily on older pathways. These go from the retina, perhaps via the LGN, but crucially, they project to other visual areas in the cortex, the extracellular cortex, without going through V1 first.
And what structures are key players in this bypass?
Two seem absolutely critical based on research, especially in animal models like monkeys. First, the superior colliculus, or SC. It's involved in basic visual reflexes, like eye movements.
Okay, the SC and the second.
A part of the thalamus called the pulvinar, specifically a region known as the ventrolateral pulvinar, or VL pull.
So SC and VL pull, how do we know they are the crucial detour and not just, general background activity?
Great question. The evidence is quite strong, particularly from studies on V1 lesioned macaques. These monkeys show blind sight that can make accurate eye movements, called saccades, to targets in their blind field.
Just like the human patients.
Exactly. So researchers tested the role of the VL pole directly. They used techniques to temporarily shut down the activity just in that specific area.
Like flipping a switch off.
Sort of, yes. Reversible inactivation. And what happened?
Let me guess. Their blind sight ability disappeared.
Severely impaired. Their accurate saccades towards the blind field targets basically stopped working properly while the VL pole was offline. It showed the VL pole was essential.
Okay, that's convincing. But does it prove the connection from the SC to the VL pole is the specific route?
They tackled that too, using more sophisticated techniques like double viral vectors. It sounds complex, but it lets you target specific connections. They selectively blocked only the signals traveling from the SC to the VL pole.
Wow, that's precise.
It is. And when they blocked just that connection, the monkey's saccades to the blind field became much less accurate and took longer. It pinpointed that SC to VL pole pathway as a key mediator of this action blind sight.
That really is like finding the exact detour on the map, the smoking gun for that circuit.
Pretty much, yeah. It shows how these older subcortical structures can support sophisticated visual guidance without V1.
It's amazing that these sort of backup systems have such fidelity. But blind sight isn't only about guiding actions, right? Can these pathways process other features? What about motion?
Yes, motion is a big one. Many patients experience something called the Riddick phenomenon.
Riddick? What's that?
It's the ability to see moving things in the blind field, even when stationary objects in the same area are completely invisible.
So the blind field becomes a motion detector.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
Something static, nothing. Something moving. They might perceive it.
Is that type 1 or type 2 blind sight then? Because if they perceive the motion...
That's the nuance. It often gets classified as type 2 because the patient is often consciously aware of the movement itself, maybe a blur or direction.
Yeah.
They have the qualia of motion, just not necessarily the object doing the moving.
So maybe not pure blind sight, but still showing a selective preservation of motion processing.
Exactly. And this ability is often better for faster movements, say above 5 degrees per second. It also depends on things like contrast and flicker rate. Interestingly, though, they often struggle with global motion, like seeing the overall direction in a pattern of moving dots. Local movement is okay, complex patterns less so.
Makes sense. Simpler inputs work better for the backup system. What about emotion? Can they pick up on, say, facial expressions?
Yes, and this is really fascinating. It's called effective blind sight. The idea is there's an old, evolutionarily rapid pathway for detecting emotionally significant things, especially threats, that bypasses conscious processing.
A kind of quick and dirty threat detector.
You got it. This pathway often involves the superior colliculus, the pulvinar again, feeding into the amygdala, the brain's fear center.
So it goes straight to the emotional alarm system.
Seems like it. Patients like GY and TN, when shown pictures of faces in their blind field, could guess above chance whether the expression was fearful, angry, or happy.
Even though they didn't consciously see the face.
Correct. And brain scans often show activity in their amygdala, corresponding to the emotion shown, particularly strong for fear. The brain gets the emotional signal without conscious sight.
But it can get even more complex than just basic emotions, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about patient AM. That case seems extraordinary.
Patient AM is remarkable. Severe brain damage, clinically blind, and interestingly, he also had Anton syndrome.
Which is?
Where someone is blind but denies being blind. Quite a complex situation.
Okay, so blind and denying it. What could he do visually?
Unconsciously, his abilities were stunning. He could tell the difference between a real face and a jumbled up face. He could categorize people, is this a doctor, a family member?
Yeah.
And perhaps most amazing,
Go on.
he could reliably distinguish his wife's face from the faces of other female therapists.
Without seeing them, he could tell his wife apart.
With high accuracy, all while reporting no visual experience. It suggests these subcortical routes can handle surprisingly sophisticated identification tasks, far beyond just detecting a dot of light.
That's profound. It's not just location or motion, but identity. What else? Can they process things like color or shape?
Yes, to some extent.
Yeah.
Blindsight patients often show they can discriminate colors, different wavelengths of light, and also the orientation of lines, or even simple shapes. Again, better than chance would predict.
But there are limits.
Definitely. The stimuli usually need to be fairly large, high contrast. It's not like normal vision. But the fact that any processing of features like color and orientation occurs without V1 is what's so revealing.
Which brings us right back to that core puzzle. the awareness part. Is type 1 blindsight where they report zero awareness genuinely unconscious seeing? Or could it be just really, really faint conscious vision that they dismiss?
That is the million-dollar question in consciousness research. Is it truly unconscious or just incredibly degraded conscious sight?
How do researchers even try to measure that?
Well, traditionally, they used a simple binary choice. Did you see it or did you guess?
Seems straightforward.
But think about it. If you have a very weak, fleeting visual experience, are you going to confidently say, I saw it? Many people would default to I guessed, setting a really high bar for reporting awareness.
Ah, so the method itself might be hiding subtle awareness.
That's the argument. So researchers developed more sensitive measures, like the Perceptual Awareness Scale, or PAS. Instead of just seeing guessed, it offers graded options.
Like what?
Things like no experience, brief glimpse, almost clear experience, clear experience. It gives patients options to report those subtle feelings.
And what happens when patients use the PAS scale instead of the old binary choice?
This is where it gets tricky for the pure unconscious view. Patients like SL or GR, when using the PAS, reported some level of awareness, maybe just a brief glimpse on a much higher percentage of trials, sometimes up to 65% compared to only 11% using the binary method.
Wow. And did their accuracy match that reported awareness? Yes. Their performance was better on trials where they reported a glimpse than on trials where they reported no experience. This suggests that at least some of what was called type 1 blindsight might actually be this very degraded but still conscious experience. The patient was just being cautious in their report.
That really does reframe things. Maybe unconscious vision is rarer than we thought. Then you have cases like patient JK where awareness seems totally out of sync.
JK is fascinating. Functional blindness, but his V1 looks structurally okay on scans. He did have some residual conscious vision light, dark, bright colors, but operated with this strange built-in delay.
A delay? How?
He described it like seeing the bright color of a baseball after it had already hit his hand. The conscious percept lagged behind reality.
So his awareness was too slow to be useful for acting in real time.
Exactly. For him, the delayed conscious vision was actually a hindrance. He had to rely on faster, presumably non-conscious, reflexive responses to interact with things effectively. It shows awareness isn't just on or off. Timing is critical.
Okay, so the picture is complex. But what are the implications? Does understanding these pathways offer hope for, say, rehabilitation? Can you train blindsight?
Yes, you absolutely can. Research shows that repeated visual stimulation in the blind field, basically, visual training exercises can improve performance on these unconscious tasks.
So practice helps even the non-conscious pathways work better.
It seems so. And remarkably, this training can sometimes even lead to an expansion of the functional visual field.
But wait, if the training helps someone regain conscious vision, even just basic light detection, is that still the subcortical detours improving? Or is something else happening?
That's a really key finding. When patients recover some conscious sensitivity, say detecting light, that recovery seems to correlate with activity in the bits of V1 that were spared right near the edge of the damaged area.
So the original highway, V1, isn't totally out. Even damaged V1 can contribute to recovery.
It appears crucial for regaining conscious awareness, yes. The minimally functioning V1 tissue seems to be reactivated or repurposed through training.
How does that work? Does the brain rewire itself?
There's evidence of neuroplasticity. The recovery is associated with an increase in how much of the visual field that remaining V1 tissue covers. It seems the brain enlarges the receptive fields of the neurons there, basically, making each neuron responsible for a slightly larger patch of the visual world.
So the healthy V1 tissue near the lesion kind of stretches its resources to cover the blind spot.
That's the idea. It suggests V1 itself can reorganize to compensate, leading to a return of conscious experience mediated by this physical change in neural processing.
Fascinating. So bringing it all together.
Well, blindsight fundamentally challenges the idea that V1 is the absolute gatekeeper of vision and visual consciousness. It reveals these incredible, resilient parallel pathways in the brain.
Pathways that allow us to process and use visual information for action, for emotion, even for complex identification, all potentially without subjective awareness.
Exactly. It shows that knowledge can exist and be used by the brain completely separately from our conscious experience of it. These backup systems are always there.
Which leads to a pretty provocative thought, doesn't it? If our brains have these powerful, non-conscious visual channels guiding actions and reading emotions, how much of our everyday life, our choices, our gut feelings are actually driven by this hidden processing? Maybe what we call intuition or reflex is sometimes just this incredibly fast, sophisticated V1 independent analysis happening beneath the surface, making decisions before we even consciously know it.
It certainly makes you wonder about the limits of our own self-awareness and what's really driving the show.
A lot to think about there. A fantastic deep dive.